Place got a lot more high tech since I was here years ago. Hello, Maria Moore. How are you today?
Kevin, I'm sorry. Did you say you were ready? Great, excellent. All right, welcome to the sixth and final meeting of the Traffic Mitigation and Safety Task Force. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. So we have an agenda today. We have about 6 items that we are going to try to get through today. First and foremost, we are planned to have a brief presentation from our Town Planning and Development Administrator, Janice Shearer, on the County Road 39 corridor plan, just taking another look at it like we did last month, specifically looking at it in terms of development and zoning. And then we did have scheduled EMS considerations from Donna Craneboard, one of our members. However, I believe she is either running late and may be in some traffic and may or may not be able to be here tonight. So we will hear from Jason down there as well to maybe offer some perspective and highlights as per EMS considerations. And then we're going to shift gears and hear from our co-chair, Tom Neely, looking at the collection of information that we've made throughout the task force. We've been collecting emails. We've been hearing from the public, as you all know. And so we're going to be looking at some roads of concern, what's happening on those roads. We're going to talk about how we'll be developing some potential solutions, some of which we already have. But this is an ongoing list, and it's subject to evaluation. So, we're going to be looking at a number of different criteria on how we will be implementing that section of our final report. Then we'll have a quick update on County Road 39. We have Alex Prego from County DPW. We thank you for being here. And any other potential updates as well. And we'll talk a little bit more in depth about the final report, actually, that we will be delivering hopefully in the next couple of months to the town board to review. So Janice is still not here. I'm not sure if Janice is going to be in or not, or if she's just running a little bit behind. Let me see if I have anything. I don't have anything here. Did you have something?
No, I'd love to hear from her. So
Yeah. So my legislative aide will reach out and see if we have an update. So for now, let's actually just move to EMS considerations for now. Actually, before we do that, if you don't mind, Jason, I wanted to actually just fill in the public about where we're at, just sort of an overview of what we've been doing as a task force. I think it's always good to kind of just take stock of what we've been doing and where we're going. There are a number of different things that we've been talking about in these meetings. And so I wanted to list off just a couple of different things that we've been talking about. And these are features, concepts, plans that you're going to see placed into the final report. We first talked about the fact that, we do have a traffic and safety director position in the town of Southampton. It's currently unfilled. We are evaluating that position, I believe, right?
we put it in the budget for next year.
It was put in the budget for next year. We think that would be a really important position to fill given the amount of traffic issues that come to our offices. And we want to continue to obtain concerns from the community, constituent concerns, and respond to constituents with various traffic questions and traffic concerns that are brought to us. And we want to continue to do that specifically by keeping alive the traffic email that we established during the task force. We have an email, and Kevin, if you wouldn't mind throwing that up for the public as well, so they can see it visually. That's traffic@southamptontowny.gov. Again, that's traffic@southamptontowny.gov. And we want to continue to have that email open for people to continue to email the town their concerns about various traffic issues on our roads, because we realize that what we were able to capture in these 6 meetings might be not in the totality of the concern. So we want to make sure we're keeping that alive for that very reason. And while we won't necessarily be having these sessions, it is the prerogative of the members of this task force that we do continue to hold periodic interdepartmental meetings between the police department, between engineering, between public safety and our highway department, as well as our supervisor, to have these meetings internally to review what those emails are saying, to make sure if there is a concern that is being brought to our attention, that we are coordinating between the departments. Because one of the things that I believe we really realized throughout this exercise of the task force is how critical interdepartmental communication and interdepartmental relations helps in resolving and addressing some of the concerns that are brought to us. We also, had extensive discussions on speed cameras, specifically on County Road 39 for traffic safety. We discussed how we would go about that process, pursuing state enabling legislation. So we are still, that's something that would have to, be pursued, and we would have to have the partnership of the state on that, which I know Assemblyman Fred Thiel has been so helpful in discussing with us that process and what that looks like going forward. And we also know that Senator Palumbo has also been helpful in that regard as well. We also recognize that we need to invest in additional speed monitors. We think that speed monitors are a good way to help with speed mitigation, specifically neighborhood roads where you might have cars speeding down a neighborhood road that is using it as a cut through. There is definitely, I think, a benefit for, at least psychologically speaking, for a driver who thinks they could just speed down a side road. If they see that speed monitor, they're likely going to slow down. And from our experience, Maria and I in particular, we've deployed several speed monitors, and the feedback that we've received from constituents is that thank you so much, it's been working. So we think that it's a worthy investment, and we're working with the chief as well. The chief is also a big fan of that, and we're going to be getting more of those items for our constituents. We have discussed several interim traffic measures. We had Charlie, our highway superintendent, who couldn't be here today, and Tom Neely detail a couple of examples at our last meeting. There are some interim recommendations that we're going to be outlining in the final report. Some have to do with our extending the blinking yellow light program, the cone program that we have currently in Hampton Bays. We have other concepts that we've discussed throughout these meetings that we are going to explore in greater detail and write about in the final report. Pursuant to what was supposed to be discussed today, we also wanted to include a section, and we will be including a section at our, in our final report on zoning and permitting, and especially on County Road 39, because it was mentioned, I believe, Alex, at the county update meeting, and Legislator Welker, we appreciate your coordination with that, by the way, that we have to look at land use. We have to look at planning on those. Oh, speaking of planning, there we are. Thank you, Director. We have to look at all of those things. So I think we have to be serious about that and include a very detailed, comprehensive view for the residents and figure out what kind of solutions we can actually pursue that will be viable in enhancing safety on County Road 39. Another thing that we've discussed in our previous meetings, you will find staggered work hours or noise ordinance changes to help offset some of the traffic that comes in and out of Southampton, especially from Up Island. Another item that was discussed, working staging areas to cut down on truck traffic. Another major item that we are in the process of pursuing, thanks to our CTV team who's behind that screen, and the chief of police. We're looking at developing a safety campaign, a PSA, that will occur before the summer starts and throughout the summer itself. It will be on our splash page on our website, CTV and Sun TV, and we also hope to have it on our social media channels as well, where we'll put out a PSA about the importance of driving safely, not cutting down side roads, and a number of other things. And the chief is working with our CTV team right now to develop that PSA. So we're really, really looking forward to that. It's going to be very fun to film. And we'll make sure we get that out there before the summer starts and we get that the onset of additional traffic. Also, thanks to the Southampton Town Police Department as well as our fellow board members, we were able to fill 8 police positions this year.
Well, it's 4 new officers and 2 sergeants.
Next year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're right.
Next year is so we filled
this year's budget for next year, right?
yes. So we worked with the chief, and the chief really, worked very diligently to make sure we filled the 8 positions that we had that the town had budgeted for previously. And then next year we have 4. You want to talk about it? 4 positions.
Just four new positions and the 2 sergeants, and we have some ideas for an SRO program that we're gonna.
Did you want to talk a little bit?
No, I think
Okay.
we'll let the chief talk about it later.
Okay.
We can explore it a little bit more first.
Very good. And
more code enforcement officers.
correct, 2 additional code enforcement officers, and that's thanks to the work of our public safety director Ryan Murphy. So we are. One of the comments that we've received via email and from constituents who've approached us is that we just need more cops. We need more police officers. We need to make sure that we are coordinating with the villages and that we're making sure that the concerns there are being heard. And that's why interdepartmental coordination is so critical, and as well as intermunicipal coordination is significantly critical as well. Another thing that I wanted to mention, we would like to find ways we could also enhance public transportation. So we've been having ongoing discussions thanks to Assemblyman Fred Thiel. We've been talking about expanding the South Fork Commuter Connection and making sure we have additional transportation opportunities for our workers. I think we actually, Assemblyman, we were successful in adding a line, correct?
Yeah, the capital budget, the 5-year capital plan for the MTA includes $800 million for regionally significant projects, of which this is one. The estimated cost of our project is $260 million. This will allow that project to move forward through planning and engineering and design, and will at least get things going in that regard. So that was a major victory to get it included in the plan, which the MTA board has accepted. There is still a final approval of the plan that must be there's a group that includes the representatives of the governor, the legislature, et cetera, that has to give final approval to the MTA plan. It also has to be funded in light of to be fully funded, because some of the revenue for the capital plan was supposed to come from congestion pricing, which is not going forward at the moment. So, the good news is that it was included in the plan, and if the plan is fully funded, I think this project will be funded. So, another step forward, but still some steps that need to be taken before we'll be able to move forward.
But it's a good news that the line item was
very
there.
much so.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah,
That took a lot.
it's a testament to your advocacy, Assemblyman Thiel, and your partnership with Councilmember Tommy John Scavone as well.
As well as other stakeholders that
The hospital,
all the elected
schools.
officials,
Yep.
The hospital, schools, local business people.
Yep.
It was a team effort,
Certainly.
and I think because we showed a united front, that got the attention of the MTA.
Yeah, and also Senator Palumbo and also County Executive Romaine were
Right.
critical people that we want to just mention as well. Thank you for that. And another issue that we've also we've received comments too about, Suffolk County public transportation as well. One of the things we want to explore in the future is ways we could also expand the on-demand bus, which has been very successful in the second legislative district. So we'll be having ongoing conversations about that matter as well. We've addressed a number of roads of concern that have been emailed to us. However, like I said earlier, we will be outlining all of the roads that have been brought to our attention and explain in greater detail a number of potential issues, solutions with the roads identified, and ways to mitigate the concerns that were documented. So we plan to do that as our final report exercise. So that being said, we don't have to go out of order. We do have our planning director here. Director Shearer is here to join us and talk to us a little bit about County Road 39, the corridor plan, and a little bit about what a limited moratorium would look like.
Yes, thank you. Excuse me for being a little
No,
bit
you're
out.
fine.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nice to see you all again. I'm just gonna quickly log in.
Sure.
We did a little bit of an analysis of sort of, and the last time I was here, I went over the different various quadrants in the County Road 39 land use study that was adopted in around 2015. Yeah, 2015. We also did an analysis of what came after that, like what's happened in the past 10 years, basically, between now, 2015 and now, in terms of land use on County Road 39, and sort of, it's not, terrible as far as, like everyone wants to blame the businesses to some degree, not you, but, people I hear that a lot, and I would say that there's not been anything that's, really been terrible on the highway that would cause all the, but the chance here now is to say, well, there were some recommendations from this plan, and that it's broken up into 4 quadrants, as you may recall, and there's recommendations to change some zoning from the highway business. So while you have the opportunity and nothing's happened, no one's actively trying to do something, now's the time, if you're going to do it, to come in and say, okay, well, some of these zones, like for instance, and I'm going to pull it up on the screen because you don't have the benefit of it, but if it would ever load, there's a bunch of parcels that are zoned highway business that would be recommended to just be residentially zoned in certain areas because everything else is residential. There's some highway businesses recommended to be a category called Hamlet Office Commercial, which is like, we call that a step down zoning. And what it is that like when you have a village, like a BB, a business district, and you're going, stepping into like either residential or a different zoning, HO or HC was meant to be like a transitional zoning, which allows mixed use, but at a smaller, cuter scale. So think about like your house that turns into a dentist office or something along those lines was the idea behind the HOHCs, and they're like you can call them like a step down in terms of like intensity or traffic use. And then there's a zoning category that has yet to be developed but was conceived in this plan, and that was called the HOB, Highway Office Business. And so there was back in 2015 a lot of talk about how we really should limit, buildings in highway business are limited to 15,000 square feet now. There was a lot of conversation about further limiting that square footage to, obviously reduce the intensity of use on the highway. And but those standards were not embarked upon or developed. So there was not the political or the policymaking appetite to do that. But there may be now, so that if you were to, and there's not that many of them, there's probably only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know what? Oh, I'm sorry, there was Paula here.
Yeah, she's right there.
Oh, it's not going on. Oh, okay. There's only 7 parcels. Wait, 7? A handful, less than 20
that are saying, change these to this, create this new designation on the highway and change these less than 20 parcels to that. So we can get more granular on that, on what that means and what that looks like, because the standards there, it's just spinning and spinning. The standards there, the idea is a limited amount of square footage, lower intensity use, limit, again, the retail. The highway business in the first place is a land use that was meant to be lower order, like not a continuous use. Like for instance, I like to use PC Richards as an example. You don't go there and buy a washing machine every day, or some kind of thing like that. Like those are the kinds of uses you want on the highway, because you don't want the constant in and out, like of a retail. So when we finally work this out, I'll show you. But anyway, the limited moratorium idea then would be to only be targeting the parcels from the plan that were designated to change, and then take a pause on any. And what a moratorium does, as you all are probably familiar with, it doesn't allow you to come in for a limited time period and ask for a permit under that category, under that zoning, because something's going to change.
So these parcels, I'm sorry for interrupting, but these parcels were set to change to limited intensity.
They were recommended to change.
So
all the plans in the world are recommendations and ideas, and then it takes somebody to say, yeah, let's do this. Or we want to, there has to be a collective intention and want to do these things.
Would that require an update to the comprehensive plan, or can we just
No,
change
that
the
is the
zoning?
comprehensive plan.
This study is part of the comprehensive plan?
It is. So this gives you the ability to change
Change the zoning.
the zoning, because it's contemplated. Of course, you still have to do your, impact review and make sure that it's, the impacts are not worse, or, you obviously wouldn't be doing it then if it were. But now it's doing something else.
it's almost there.
Oh, okay. Oh, you see that?
It's almost there.
Yay! It's on.
Thank you, Tara.
I don't know what just happened, but I apologize. Yeah, so limited moratorium is really all about, oh my god, is this really going It's wanting to set up my whole email. Well, you all don't need to be worrying about, now it's not coming up. So what I'm trying to bring up right now is just the list of, recommendations. You think doing things and not printing them is the answer. But it's not. I don't know why it's not coming up.
Nothing in your email is showing up.
It's great. Being on camera, having this happen is awesome. Anyway, let me just go to the County Road 39 plan, and at least I can talk about it from that perspective.
Thank you.
Sure. Are you kidding me? This is like anything else signing in.
All right. In the meantime, while we work on making sure Janice gets everything set up, Jason, do you want to let's shift gears really quick? Go to the EMS considerations, and then we'll try to come back to Janice.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Sure. So, I'm on the spot here on the fly. I came up with a few notes that I'll go over. Before I do that, I just want to clarify that I'm not speaking for any agency, the fire department, like that. I'm here based on my former experience with Southampton Fire Department over 30 years, specifically in the fire police company, and that's the company of the fire department that's charged with scene security, scene management, traffic mitigation during an incident. Right. So, and when we say EMS, we really mean first responders. That includes the police department, fire department, EMS, all in the same umbrella, pretty much. The concepts I'm going to mention here apply to all of us. Basically, anytime an incident happens on the roadway, we're going to exacerbate the already existing issues that we've been talking about the last couple months here. And it falls on the umbrella of TIMS is the acronym, Traffic Incident Management Systems and Techniques. And this is for everything from vehicle crashes, structure fires, utility emergencies, down power lines, things like that, and 80 cases where, or the EMS calls where the ambulance corps would respond. So those are all our partners, and we have excellent working relationships. Or we've had excellent relationships based on my experience with the local police departments. Both chiefs are here today. And our goal is just to provide a safe area of operations, basically a safe spot for our fellow firemen and EMS and other first responders to work within, like a bubble of safety, if you will. And we, of course, accomplish that. This is where I'm going with this, is by usually closing roads completely, setting up detours, or detouring or closing lanes or isolating certain areas off, which creates an immediate impact on through traffic. Particularly, I know we always go back to County Road 39 is the easiest, it's the most vivid to use as an example. If there's a crash in one lane and we need to work in one lane in particular, we're taking a minimum of 2 lanes for a closure because we need a buffer zone for our first responders to work within. We can't have, the danger is working in and around moving traffic. So we're going to do what we need to do to provide a certain degree of safety for our first responders. Closing 2 lanes in either direction on County Road 39 has, again, as you can imagine, an impact. Now we'll do lane shift. We very rarely closed the entire roadway. That's a decision for the command staff at that time, and usually the fire chiefs, and it's usually in conjunction with police and EMS input, depending on all our needs. It's sort of a unified command kind of situation there. If we can avoid closing the road, we're probably going to avoid closing the road. We can do lane merges, lane shifts, and we try to at least keep 1 lane either direction going. That's really the goal. Sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not. For fatal accidents, for instance, everything gets shut down. That becomes an investigation. The fire department supports the police department, which the police department then becomes lead agency in that situation. Right? But we're still going to provide them with what they need.
Two things that we've done accomplished well since this committee started was, one, we got together with the Southampton fire chiefs and started working on a plan that would be, it's actually it'll be a publication where if the road is shut down at any particular place throughout County Road 39, what the plan would be to keep the traffic moving, where you would divert it, how much manpower you would need to on each corner. Even on Montauk Highway, you're diverting people to Montauk Highway, what manpower you need on Montauk Highway, so that you know if something happens in corridor A on 39, you know immediately how many people you need to call in and where you need to direct the people. So instead of on the fly, a sergeant trying to figure out, looking at a map, where am I going to send these people, this would already be in place and systematic. The other thing is we have already got a purchase order for a new drone. We have a very sophisticated drone program, and to add to our sophisticated drone program, we have a purchase order at the moment for a drone that will do crime scene analysis, and that will allow us to open a road within an hour instead of being closed for hours and hours at a time. So when waiting for accident reconstruction, we could get that done in 30 minutes.
And we got that through, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, we got that through a grant.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah, that was a state grant.
That's great. Yeah. Jason, did you have any?
Yeah, well, so that was where I was going. Chief stole my thunder a little bit, but I'm glad he mentioned it because I was actually unaware of that. I've been pushing for quite a few years on our end, on the fire department end, for the chiefs to do exactly that. There are other examples around the country you can look at where they'll have, blue detour, orange detour, red detour, signage, pre-signage in place that either covers up or folds down when it's not being used, and you can stand it up right away, pretty much in a situation. It's almost like an emergency evacuation routes for the storms and things like that. So it's just pre-planning, and right, we could break up 39 in certain blocks. We do that anyway informally amongst ourselves. We know there's a block from the college at Tuckahoe to Sabonic to Hillcrest. Hill Station. We can go backwards. We block it off informally amongst ourselves now because that affects which way we can send eastbound, which way we can send northbound. There's bridges, overpasses to worry about. You can't send trucks certain routes. Crossing traffic becomes a problem at certain posts, so we have to consider all that. So that was going to be my recommendation to continue with that effort, that initiative, working with our partners and having as much pre-planning as possible. Yeah, that's where I was going with that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
We'll make sure we include some of this, Tom, into the final report. And maybe perhaps we have to have a more clear section on EMS considerations itself. We'd love to have Jason and Donna contribute more.
One
to
of the
that.
elements
Yeah.
that we've talked about one of our earlier meetings was the Safe
Safe
Streets
Streets.
program, and emergency response is one of the sections that you have to make sure you have adequately prepared and filled in.
Yeah. Thank you. So, is it successful now? Yes.
Yes.
All right, back to Janice.
Land use. Thank you very much. So, this thing is a little wonky. Okay. So remember last time I came and I said, it's broken down into 4 quadrants. So this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2. You start to see the recommendations, and it starts saying HB to HO and HB to this and do transfer development rights, which we did. That was the driving range. And it has a bunch of recommendations, right? So these 4 different maps for 4 different quadrants, not too many on the east side. Most of them, close to like between Majors Path and Sandy Hollow Road, a lot of changes there, and then some here. So then what we did was took a look at this one. What does that mean? What are those little recommendations pointing on the map? What does that mean as far as data goes? What the uses are now, what the current zone is, what it's recommending it to be, and it amounts to really less than 50 parcels all told. We can do it systematically. You can look at the there's only one that's requiring a full-blown categorical change, which is the HOB, whether or not you want to develop those standards or not, or the town board, I should say, and whether or not this committee would recommend doing such a thing. The other ones are established, already known zones like HO. The only other 2 that wouldn't make sense are these resort tourism PDD. Those PDDs are no longer available as a zoning tool, so we couldn't do those. So these are already, what this is referring to is the auto museum, which has already kind of been redeveloped at this point. So this would not really apply. So some of these special trade type uses would change from highway business to HOB if that is something we do or you do. And then the R20s, there's a lot of residential dwellings, would change to HO, and I'm not sure, how that would play out. But all told, the point is that you would have less than 50 parcels subject to a limited moratorium period while you delve in and see if changing this or that makes sense for the work here, which is to mitigate traffic impacts.
Are all these parcels improved or some of them vacant? What is the breakdown?
They're all improved in
All
one way
improved.
or another, and that's what this says here. Like they'll say, this one is takeout restaurant, special trade contractor, automotive, medical office, cottage, office retail, storage. Some are just dwellings. HO is a category that allows single family homes, so you're not rendering anybody non-conforming.
But they thought that going from residential to HO would be less traffic.
That's the study recommends it, and we can look at where they're talking about to see what makes sense there. We don't have the benefit of the aerial. So R20, that, this is over by the auto museum here. HO is supposed to be limited traffic uses.
Is that Hamlet office?
Yeah. Hamlet office is, like I said, like it's like a,
dentist.
yeah, very limited, not a special trade contractor, but not a house either, because there was another like sort of goal back then not to have residential on the highway. That was like an additional sort of thing that happened to, you know, kind of phase that out, because there's a lot of curb cuts when you're dealing with residential. And as you know, you've talked about that before, like combining curb cuts and creating those consolidated access points for homes and having like school buses and things on the highway. Like all those things led into the thinking that the R20 may go away and be replaced with a limited small commercial use. That's not to say, but that was the thinking 10 years ago, and that's why we always like kind of like to refresh these plans, because we never say that, you know, we throw this on the, you know, scrap heap. We keep these recommendations because we understand what led to today, you know, what they thought then. Tom, you have a lot of good data about things we wanted to do in the past and then couldn't, or, you know, whatever happened. So it's always good to inform, like, well, that was the idea back then. So it may not be the idea now, is my point. It may not always make the perfect sense.
And you're saying really there's less than 20 parcels that would be considered here, right?
For the HOB,
Yeah.
less than 20. For all told, about less than 50. So here is 48, and we already identified 2 that are off the list. So that's 46. So all told, it would be 46 parcels that were recommended for some kind of change in this plan. And then this is just an image of, maybe it's better on this, all the site plans that have happened in the past 10 years on the highway, which are designated here in yellow. I don't know how well you can see that,
Yep.
but it's not terrible. It's not like it was, you know, everything's been overbuilt, you know. But these are the things that we had site plans come in for across the board.
Consistent amount.
As you said, Janice, this was adopted in 2015, and the access management plan, which is a part of this, was first drafted and written in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, none of our town board members were involved in or on the board at that time. I'm thinking it might be appropriate at some point to have a meeting to talk about the corridor study and the access management plan with the whole board. You know, explore some of these topics we've talked about at prior meetings and you're talking about today. You know, might be worth, you know, considering having a meeting just dedicated to talk about that.
Well, right. The plan is only as good as its implementation. And so you need people who are committed to implementing it, and we are happy to implement whatever the priority of the board is. So it has to come through the town board.
Right? Because town code has to be changed.
Yeah.
Right?
Or there has to be a
Recommendations.
moratorium, you have to change
Right.
the zoning designation, you have to, you know, all those good things have to happen.
We could schedule a work session. and,
Sure.
start
Maybe
to
we can
explore.
invite some of our people that worked on it, like Dunn, and
Yeah.
they were the ones, you know, the priority of that study and the priority of this study overall was to protect the integrity of the road, because we never wanted to go back to the merge, you know, epic proportion of traffic, but we seem to be there anyway.
Right. And, you know, our partners at the county are working on their study right now, so it's a, you know, good time to look at all of it together, maybe.
Absolutely, less access, but less growth on County 39 is definitely in the county and everybody's best interest. And access management being a huge part of that. We're big believers and fans of that, so I love hearing those words come out. So.
Great.
I should point out that a lot of this is one of the advantages or disadvantages of being old. But a lot of the recommendations that were actually in the 1972 comprehensive plan for the pine barrens and water quality and protecting farmland didn't get enacted until the mid 1980s. So sometimes it's an idea whose time has come. So
So it was a
it
bit of a lag.
always, you know, it always helps to go back and look at some of the work that you've already done.
Yeah.
Right, and you know, I did hear the county say some, you know, things about, you know, unless you have these big bold things, but I think the simple things should always be done. They're not so simple after all, actually, and also that you can't say, you know, we can't do that huge thing if you didn't even try the small thing. So I think all these little access things and the curb cuts and the uses and how that's all gonna work out. I think that's important to keep in mind.
I agree.
There's
The
a lot of things you
answer
can
might
still
not
do.
be one big thing, it might be several small things,
Yeah.
at least in the interim.
I was going to suggest also like there should be some kind of challenge, like challenge you to get from like Southampton Village to like Sag Harbor without like how did you get there? Like try to come up with ways to get from one place to another very hyper locally without a car, where you have perimeter parking and maybe you took something like if we start piecing it together, and I think that was the whole point of all the MTA, last mile and all that, was really recognizing that you have to be able to piece together. Even if you had the train, you still need the last mile, or even if you had, some ways to park your car and get out. The less we need to use our cars because it's convenient and you can still get back to your car. That's kind of how you can look at it also,
Yeah.
So small is better type of thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Janice.
Sure,
Really
sure.
appreciate it.
So yeah, we can look further into the zoning or come to the town board as a next step for
I think a work session.
And or, the whole,
access management
Yeah.
presentation.
the 46 parcels.
Makes sense.
Great, so I'll work with you, Tom, on bringing that out. That's cool.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me know if you have any other questions. I'll stick around.
Okay.
Okay.
Does anybody on the board have any questions for Janice? No? Okay. So before we go into the roads of concern from Tom and his presentation, I just wanted to give Alex Prego from County DPW just some time to discuss any updates on the County Road 39 study and any other updates that you have for the task force.
Sure, certainly. I want to give Charlie Barther, our commissioner, couldn't be here today. He's actually on an international flight, so I'm happy to sit in for him.
Coming or going?
Leaving.
Okay.
So we wish him well. So we did hold a public meeting on October 16th regarding our County Road 39 corridor study, which was attended by about 70 people. The presentation is available on the county website. We have a special website set up for the County Road 39 study. There's also a video of the presentation and the question and answer. The website over the next month or two will become much more robust, with a lot more information, a lot more data. We also set up an email address specifically for that project, which is, that email address is cr39study@suffolkcountyny.gov.
Can you just repeat that one more time?
cr39study@suffolkcountyny.gov. The website is suffolkcountyny.gov/cr39. If you Google search it, it'll come up pretty quick. If you search for Suffolk County County Road 39 study, it should be your first response or top two. And you're going to see a much more robust website with more information on it, adding it to it as time goes on. We're expecting a lot of comments based upon our presentation, our website, so we're going to be taking those all in. The presentation we gave was very similar to the one that we gave here a few meetings back, with some additional information based upon the data we collected over the spring and summer. We are going through the feedback. We're going to continue to go through the feedback and expect to come out to the public next year. When that's going to happen depends upon the feedback we get, how much we get, and how much work we need to do, because we're expecting to come back with some answers, not all the answers, some answers of things that maybe we thought wouldn't work. Now we can know for sure after we do our analysis, would those things work or would they not work? Are they crossed off the list? And trying to narrow things down. And at that meeting, we would also expect new ideas to have to come back with and have a back and forth conversation, we'll call it. So we expect that to be a very robust thing. One thing I did want to point out on land use, which was very interesting, is that the land use on County Road 39 itself impacts the volume on County Road 39. But as you see in the last 10 years, there was not a whole lot of growth on County Road 39 proper. However, our data shows in 10 years between 2013 and 2023, the traffic volumes on County Road 39 increased by 20%, which was a much more dramatic number than I expected. So the growth is not being just driven by the land use on County Road 39 proper, but throughout the entire town and East Hampton town. So part of our study will be speaking about that side of the traffic volume capacity equation, which is demand, which is mostly driven, we know, by land use. So that'll be an important part of what we're going to be speaking to as well.
It's great. And, in terms of, and feel free, anybody else might have a different question, jump in. You're still collecting or evaluating information, right? You're still collecting data. There's still ongoing work, right, with respect to this study.
Absolutely. And right now we are looking for public input through our website, through our email address, because again, that's what we feel is going to be driving what we're looking at and what people are looking for, ideas. We have a lot of our own ideas, but there's a lot of other ideas out there. We want to take those ideas in, do our analysis, come back to the public, and continue that conversation.
Anybody else? Well, I want to just thank your department for being transparent and open with your partnership with the community. I think that's really important for our residents to see that we have a county that wants to partner with the community to help drive the direction of a project. I think that's really important and should be noted. Thank you also to Legislator Welker too for helping in that moving in that direction. So, does anybody else have any questions? All right, I'll move. Do you have a question? No. I'll move over to Tom. You're gonna lead us in our next presentation.
Yes, and maybe I'll go up to the podium because then I'm going to go right.
Whatever
into
you
a
want. You could
presentation.
sit here,
How's
or
that?
you could go up there.
I'll go up there so we can go to the. Well, no, I'll try it from here. Let's see how we do. I can see Paula from here. Thank you. The next item is discuss the roads of concern, and as the councilman said in his introduction, we've been collecting, compiling all of the emails, comments from residents that have been made at the podium since this task force began. And again, we would encourage people to email us questions, comments, concerns to the traffic email that was mentioned. That way we have a record and we're able to really look at it and think about it and respond to it. One of the steps we've taken using that information is develop a map, which you see up the two big maps at the right at the far end under the monitors.
Can you move that chair? Is it Jason? Do you mind moving that chair out of the way?
Sure. No, the ones I'm pointing at.
I'm sorry.
The big blue water in the background.
Okay.
And it is tough to see. We have about we've mapped the roads that we've been contacted about, along with the roads that currently are under the town truck restriction regulations, because those have historically been roads of concern. That's generally why they end up on the list of roads of concern. So we have about 30 or 35 roads that are currently on our weight restricted, no trucks regulations. We've added probably another 15 or so roads that weren't on that. They go all over the town. I think we've included the village in that because, again, while we don't have direct jurisdiction, we know those roads are of concern. We've heard from the residents, and as we've discussed, when it comes to traffic, it's really kind of hard to separate the concerns of the town and the concerns of the village. So we've included those on there. This is a first step. We intend to continue to add to it as we go forward so that we can kind of quantify and visualize the issue. We can also, in the future, hope to get to the point where we're able to come up with some concrete ways to measure the problems, whether there's speeding concerns and concerns about potential accidents or both, or concerns about trucks going forward, we would like to be able to perhaps look at the crashes on all these roads in the town. That data is available. We are able to get it as a town, and we can start to isolate and see where we have demonstrated problems through crashes. We can also work with the town police and Tom Houghton, the engineering office, and get speed displays, speed monitors out there, which also measure the speeds, so that we can see what the actual speeds on many of these roads are. So again, we're going to try to quantify that, not only to assist in enforcement and other efforts and engineering efforts, because maybe a road needs some work on the design of the road or the signage of the road, as well as some enforcement issues. But compiling that kind of information will also help the town move forward with putting together safety action plans that are quite often needed to apply for federal or state or county grants for traffic safety, traffic mitigation funding. You quite often need to show that you're doing something, you've come up with a plan to try to address the problems in order to get funding to address the problems. So we see, as we go forward beyond the current task force, compiling that, updating it, and continuing to track it and quantify it.
Thank you. Any questions about the roads of concern? No? I think it's a great step, Tom. I appreciate you taking the time to map out our emails and our comments that we've received. And I know that that's still in draft form, but that we still have some things to do with that. But that's essentially what will be depicted in our final report in that section that will review the constituent concerns specifically, so that people understand what those constituent concerns were that were brought to our attention and what we found to be potential solutions and what we evaluated on those roads.
And I should add that I'd like to thank the GIS folks for their help in putting this map together.
Yeah.
And also, when we get to the final report, I believe what we're going to do is break them down into hamlets, so they're kind of bite-sized pieces rather than looking at a big, huge map.
Indeed.
We're going to localize it for everybody, make it easier. If you live in a certain hamlet, you're probably most concerned about what's going on in that hamlet.
Right.
So,
Tom, I could give you the data that we have that people complained about roads directly to us that didn't go through that email. So
okay,
I'm
great.
sure I'll have a few to add to that.
Add a few, yeah. I don't know if I said, but I think we have about 50 on there now. But
Yeah.
yes, that'd be great.
Great. All right. Tom, you have another part of your presentation?
Yes. I wanted to follow up, talk a little bit about County Road 39 and some of the other related topics looking long term. And I know you folks have seen that aerial of mine. That's 1952 County Road 39 under construction, which also says a whole lot about transportation and land use. Those were farm fields back then. I did want to talk a little about the July 31st Suffolk County DPW Task Force presentation. And as I said, I'm also going to touch upon some previously considered long-term infrastructure improvement ideas. If you can go to the next slide. This, you may remember, was the slide presented as part of the DPW presentation called the history lesson. And it goes back, and I think it was a pretty comprehensive list of going all the way back to 1969. And if you didn't have a chance to go through it, I would suggest that we're not going to go through the whole thing right now, but it goes back, provides a pretty comprehensive look to funding back in 1969 for an extension of Sunrise Highway, a number of other steps in the process, subsequent studies that were done. But in looking at it, there were a couple of items that I thought were not included that perhaps should have been included. And those are marked in red. 2004, the town transportation elements portion of the town comp plan was adopted. It's correct that in 1999, the major portion of the town comprehensive plan was adopted by the town board. The transportation elements portion of it, however, was not adopted until 2004. That's important to note because the adoption of the transportation elements portion resulted in the creation of the Town Transportation and Traffic Safety Office, and Southampton is the only town on the East End with any kind of office like that. It also created and empowered the Town Transportation Commission. The town board created an 11-person Town Transportation Commission with members of the community as well as members of the Highway Department.
When was that created?
That was 2004. It was adopted in November 2004. Everything kind of started to come together in 2005. So the Town Transportation Commission was tasked with pursuing various ideas to address transportation and land use issues. This did lead to the development and the eventual adoption of the County Road 39 Access Management Plan, and which of course is a portion of the County Road 39 corridor study, which we talked about a little bit earlier. The adoption of the Transportation Elements document and creation of the commission also led to the development of concept plans to improve County Road 39, which I'm going to talk about a little further in a minute. The next one in red up there was it was listed as 2004. It was actually presented in 2005, but that's going awfully far back, so a year here, a year there. That was the EETC findings presentation of Regional Transportation Summit. That was known to those of us that were directly involved in it as the SEED study, the Sustainable East End Development Study, which began in 2001 or so, involved all 5 East End towns, and again, it tried to address land use and transportation. So that was presented in 2005. The written document was distributed in early 2006. And I will say, I believe it was maybe the first time the word sustainability appeared in any documents on the East End. The result of that SEED study, which again was cooperated 5 towns, and I believe we had 6 or 8 villages, maybe 9 villages involved in it at the time. It resulted in 11 of the municipalities signing an intermunicipal agreement to work together on land use and transportation issues. The efforts to coordinate the regional land use decisions did not really go forward. There was great challenges in working on a regional basis with regard to land use decisions, so that did not really go forward. It did spur the effort to pursue improved public transportation. It also reaffirmed that the East End communities did not support large-scale roadway infrastructure projects, but did support smaller-scale roadway infrastructure projects. So that kind of goes back to the history, again, of the East End not really supporting major changes to our roadway system, but again, being open to more smaller-scale projects. Jumping down to 2009, the 2000 also in red up there. I'm sorry, jumping over the 2004 to 2007 County Road 39 long-term plans, which I will get to in a moment, but let me just talk for a minute about the Volpe study. One of the results of the SEED study was to pursue the public transportation option. The 2009 Volpe regional study of public transportation options grew out of the SEED study and the Town Transportation Commission Elements recommendations. Town Transportation Elements recommendations. The Volpe study helped support implementation of the interconnected rail and bus service concept that we now know as the South Fork Commuter Connection. The Volpe study also helped identify the infrastructure improvements needed to improve East End Long Island Railroad service. And we just talked about it a minute ago. After many years of effort, and again, Assemblyman Thiel, I think, deserves a whole lot of credit for working at this for an awful lot of years. The MTA board has recently approved including $260 million in their capital plan for those long-needed LIRR infrastructure improvements on the South Fork. Now I'm going to go back and talk for a minute about the concepts for County Road 39. If you could go to the next slide. Between about 2004 and 2007, through the work of the transportation elements adopted comp plan, which transitioned into the work of our town transportation commission, concept plans were developed for County Road 39. Some of the elements of that, work that we agreed upon with Suffolk County DPW when we were working very closely. There was consensus on a new gateway entrance on 39, transitioning from Sunrise to 39. We had consensus on 2 lanes in each direction. We had consensus on a median that would be landscaped, not a full median the entire length, but a partial median where there were some breaks in the median, but it was going to be a landscape median. There were select roundabouts and turnarounds at certain places along County Road 39, and there were sidewalks and shoulders in the plan. There was a $60 million price tag associated with it. The project got far enough along to be included on what's known as the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program, which is the way that large-scale infrastructure improvements and even smaller-scale infrastructure improvements are funded. It's a federal, state, county process. And it was put onto the TIP hopefully for funding. That was somewhere around 2008. A couple of years later, Suffolk County advised us that they had removed it from the TIP so that it was no longer on the list to possibly be funded. We got notice of that a year or two after, I believe, County Road 39 was widened, as it mentioned on the earlier history lesson. County Road 39 was widened in 2008. It was Alex could speak to that.
We call that an early implementation project.
Right.
No right-of-way taking.
Right.
It was a big factor on that.
A much, I guess, simpler project than what was envisioned as the long-term plan. At the time, that was called the interim plan. 15 years later, it's still out there as the interim plan. And the long-term plan, was never, again, it was withdrawn from consideration for funding. And I just wanted to bring that back. Do you want to go to the next slide? And I apologize for the quality of this. These are up on the wall. Up the top section is the Suffolk County concept. The bottom couple of aerials, graphics that you see there were what the Town Transportation Commission had developed. And then working very closely with the county. The one that you see on the top and the one that you see on the screen was what was developed by the county. And again, they had a couple of alternates plans. This is what was identified as the preferred plan. We had public hearings on it. There was public input on the ideas. But again, it did not go forward. I just, point out a couple of things here. You can see to the left where the little red square is that, that was the revised entrance gateway to the community from Sunrise Highway. Then you move a little bit to your right. That's Shrubland Road. What was envisioned or the concept there was to have a pedestrian crossing signal. I know there's a traffic signal icon up there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's actually identified in the box as being a pedestrian signal. A little farther to your right is another road that, of course, has been discussed widely, which is Greenfield Road. That was an example of where you would have had left turns in and right turns out, but you would not have been able to turn left. Then you go farther east to the fourth and last little red dot there. That's where Tuckahoe Road is. And the idea there was to have a jug handle turnaround installed. So that again, all along 39, you would have been making rights out. You would have gone down a certain amount of distance in
So-
order to turn around.
Could you explain what that is, jug handle?
Oh,
I know
I'm
New
sorry.
Jersey,
A
but
jug handle looks like a jug handle, and it's a fairly common term in other places, New Jersey and other places like that. It's where you make a right to get off, to come back around, to get to a traffic signal so that you can make a left or go straight across the road. It's the way you cross a road without having to make a left across traffic.
thank you.
And then, Paula, if you'll go to the next one. Okay, and this is the eastern half of 39. Again, I'll just quickly mention a couple of things of importance. That first red dot you see up there, that's at Sandy Hollow Road. There was a roundabout envisioned as part of the concept at Sandy Hollow Road. Then your next dot there, kind of in the center, is where North Main Street is, and there was again a turnaround mechanism there, so that cars could, make a right, circle around to be able to make a left to get back west. And then the far right, hard to see, but that's where County Road 39 ends, and it meets Montauk Highway, Hampton Road, and Flying Point Road, right over by patio.com. And there was another roundabout planned there. So just wanted to kind of dust that off, refresh everybody's memory about that. We may want to see if there's anything that can be learned from that original effort and used going forward. And again, you can come up and look at these after the meeting if you'd like to study them. They're old. I'm sure every recommendation and all the ratings that were done certainly would have to be done 15 years later, but I thought it was worth bringing out. Paula, would you go to the next slide? Okay, another idea that was considered and then put on hold several years ago was the idea at Tuckahoe Road of closing Tuckahoe Road, rebuilding it or moving it to the east, closing the current Tuckahoe Road, building a new Tuckahoe Road between Shinnecock Golf Course and Southampton Golf Course on that property. As you can see to the right half of the slide, that's it would close Tuckahoe Road, it would move it to the right, it would come down and intersect with St. Andrews Road and then go back over to the intersection where Tuckahoe Road meets County Road 39. There were some benefits to this. Shinnecock Golf Club proposed this. They offered to pay for this. They also offered to contribute about $6 million towards any other traffic improvements that the town wanted to implement. And I will say that relocated road is actually part of the town comprehensive plan as an idea to be considered. One of the benefits here was that you could go up St. Andrews Road, you could go under the overpass and go north up Tuckahoe Road without crossing County Road 39. You would be able to go under County Road 39. I believe the fire department was supportive of it at the time. The ambulance squad was supportive of it at the time. So there were, I think financial reasons to do it. They were also going to build a trail, walking trail, the extension of the Pominock Path. It was, kind of a good idea. We looked at some variations. For example, changing that intersection around to be more like an interchange so that there wouldn't have to be a traffic signal there, but perhaps there could be an interchange there. The county was involved in those discussions, golf course, the town, and the hospital was involved because, as I think we all know, the plan to move the hospital over to Stony Brook, over to the college, was very active at that time. The decision was made to hold off on that to see how the progress was made with moving the hospital over to the campus. So this was, I believe, 2016 or 2018. 2018,
Yeah.
right? So that's another one. Maybe we dust that off and take another look at whether that idea should be considered further. Would you go one more slide, Paula? I just have a couple more for everybody. Now, we're jumping over to Watermill. There has been discussion with the DOT of bookending Watermill with roundabouts, one at the Little Cobb Montauk Highway intersection and one up at the Scuttle Hole Road Montauk Highway intersection. You want to jump to the next slide? This is a concept design actually developed by the DOT. Now, a resident of Watermill, I'll give some credit here, a resident of Watermill came to us with this idea. I think we warmed up to it and had some discussions with them a couple of years ago. More recently, our current the supervisor and I know the assemblyman and some other people have had some more recent discussions about it. You want to jump to the next one? And this is the Scuttle Hole concept side roundabout. The benefits of this are you could have right turns out of all the streets and side roads, go down the road a little bit, go around the roundabout to go back in the other direction that you wanted to come, so that you wanted to go, so that we again would not be making lefts across Montauk Highway. And it would also allow the elimination of the traffic signal by the post office, or by water, what do we call that now? By Depot Road. So you could eliminate the traffic signal, you could eliminate lefts across the road. I believe there's been some discussions. I don't know if you folks want to chime in on that one.
Well, I mean, I think the key element here is one of the major comments that we've received is the traffic that are going down side roads, side streets, and burdening neighborhoods. And I believe, Tom, this was evaluated specifically to, one, get rid of the choke point, as you mentioned, near the traffic light, Depot Road, and also help to steer traffic away from going down the side streets.
Right. If we can improve the traffic flow on Montauk Highway, we reduce the pressure on the side street. Thank you. That's a critical point. And, some of the measurements we've done is, as you probably know, on a few occasions, the traffic going back to 2017 or something, 2015, the traffic signal in Watermill has been put on blinking on a few occasions to test it. I've tracked it on those occasions, and I think it saves about 6 to 8 minutes. So if you can save 6 to 8 minutes by staying on Montauk Highway, you're hopefully not going to be on Little Cobb, not going to be on Lower Seven Ponds, you're not going to be on, all the other Head of Pond, all the other back roads that people are using right now. So that's the logic behind it, and there are discussions going on. And I think hopefully we have one more. Yes, thank you. This one, sorry for the quality, but it's gone through a few iterations, I think. This would be a roundabout at the intersection of Flanders Road, State Route 24, and Montauk Highway, County Road 80 in Hampton Bays. Best known as in front of the diner. Although the diner is not going to be there for long, that's currently where this is envisioned to be. And this is one where we worked with the county years ago on this idea. I think the county worked it up a little bit. The county approached the state on everybody's behalf. So there's been discussions of this. I can tell you that between here and Springville Road is a very high accident location. A lot of it has to do with the design of that part of the road, or that road there. So I think, again, there would be benefits in both traffic flow and in safety. Roundabouts, I should have said at the beginning, roundabouts have been shown generally to be improve traffic flow and to improve safety. But there are, you have to analyze in each individual intersection. There's actually a division at the state DOT that will do this work either for the county or for the state to actually do roundabout analysis for each particular location. But in general, they'll improve traffic flow and reduce crashes. I don't know if you remember this one, Alex. I want to weigh in on it or anything.
I remember this well. This is when I was director of traffic and permits
Right.
at the county, so I remember this one well. And no, we thought it was a very interesting idea. I don't believe any analysis was done at the time. Some of the modeling, I just spoke about, there's few different modeling tools you use before you design and install a roundabout to make sure it geometrically works, but also the capacity works as well. Because roundabouts can be a little tricky, especially one like this where it's a two-lane roundabout, a multi-lane roundabout, are a little challenging for all of us. Single-lane roundabouts, I think the region has become pretty comfortable with them over the years. We've built a number of them, and towns and villages have multi-lane roundabouts. You know, they work. They're interesting. The county has 2 of them, but they do add some of the challenges that need to be properly evaluated. So I think the state would be very good at that. They do that. That's what they do.
Yeah, the one in Flanders Road, I go through there a lot. Anecdotally, it seems to be much better than prior to that construction. Is there data to support that, or am I just wishful thinking?
I agree. That one does work much better than it did previous.
But
to
it takes
our
some getting
modernization.
used to.
It absolutely does. And again, that's a multi-lane.
Yeah.
What lane do I need to be
Yeah.
in to know what to get out of the signing?
It takes
becomes-
some experience.
Yeah, it takes a few.
You have to go around it a few times.
Yeah. Big Ben. So it definitely has some challenges there. And same thing, we have one on Old Country Road in Riverhead, which is also a multi-lane roundabout, which took some growing pains as well. But again, as you said, moving forward, it seems like it's a much better.
Yeah. The flow
operation.
seems better to me.
It's just that when we do the single lane roundabouts, they seem to right out of the box. They
Fewer
seem to work
fewer
well.
decisions to make.
Yes.
Yeah.
Less growing pains.
So they, again, I think the discussions have begun on this. And again, many of you may know that diner is coming down and it's going to be replaced by a couple of medical buildings. But the applicant is aware that these discussions are underway and modifications are needed to accommodate that roundabout. They seem agreeable to making the modifications, where it may touch their property. So,
Tom?
Yeah.
While we're on this slide, can you just talk to the issue that was floating around out there about the bypass that was proposed from that roundabout, from that intersection around to good ground along the right of way of the railroad and coming in? There was a talk about that floating around. Was that a formal initiative? Was that a plan that was looked at, or you know what I'm talking about, to take the pressure off Springville?
Yes.
Intersection. There was
yes, that actually would come down a little bit just east of that existing property. That was part of, currently still is, I think, part of the town comprehensive plan. There has been further discussion of it, but I'm not aware that there's any, active discussion of it right now.
I think there might have, if I recall, there might have been public pushback on that one.
Yes, there was some concern expressed about it. And again, I think that's one that isn't off the table, but I think would have to be revisited. So this conceptual drawing was also done by the DOT, as part of their assistance in looking at it. But I think you're right. I don't know that any full study of it.
Any analysis was completed at the time, though the concept does seem sound.
But
Yes.
I do want to emphasize, however, that these concepts do have correspondence attached to them that the state admits and communicates that there is merit to exploring the various concepts that are provided there. So that's important to note. And in terms of infrastructure upgrades, we want to be able to receive state funding. We want to receive funding that could help offset any taxpayer costs. And I think that these particular concepts do prove exactly that. If we could successfully get the transportation funding, that would be very, very beneficial for the taxpayers.
The tip that I talked about at the beginning, talking about County Road 39 Transportation Improvement Program, highly likely these would be funded, if it were to go forward, that they'd be eligible to be funded through this federal, state, and county funding process, not through a local funding. We wouldn't have to pay.
And now on that, Fred, would the town have to match, or like the watermill, for instance, examples, would the town have to match that, or no?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Each one of these projects They all have their own history and their own life to them. I mean, but typically, these would not be projects that the town would have to put up a matching.
Good to know.
Matching
What
funds,
about this concept? Would Suffolk County have to put up a matching for that?
It's possible.
Possible, but typically the state being that there's a state
State road.
where
State
the
road,
access to
yeah.
it is their signal, it's their intersection. Typically, this, and I think even the other two being on state highways as
They would
well.
take jurisdiction over it.
The
Well-
state generally, not always, but generally would take lead.
State and federal.
The
Right.
state did say that they would, the DOT said that they would take the lead on the two in Watermill, but they thought that the county would, they'd take care of the funding aspect of it, but they thought the county would be the lead on this one, for whatever reason, the way the road falls.
See what happens when you're not in the room?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, no, we'd have to talk more with the state about that, but even right now, that is a state signal. We don't have any operational control over that intersection right now, so that would be definitely a shift in jurisdiction for us. So, but anything, we can talk more about that with the state.
Yeah, all important conversations. And thank you for getting on a call with me this morning, by the way. Really appreciate it.
Tom, while you have
Go
that slide up there, the driveway going into the atrium, if there were no left turns allowed in or left turns coming out, it will reduce your accidents. Because that's where your accidents are.
Right, that's right. That's
How,
right.
how do we get the state to allow us to do that?
Well,
Well,
the conversations have started. The getting on the tip, and Alex certainly probably could speak to this better because he does it all the time. But I've worked with the tip and the funding process on projects in the past. It's challenging and very involved. But
We'll have the accident data.
Right.
It's
Okay.
Monthly.
exactly right. I don't know if you want to speak to how that works.
Yeah,
a little
so
bit.
again, typically on a state, when the state takes the lead, they need it to become a priority for them. And that's really, there's always competing priorities. Federal funding is not a blank check. Each region of the state, each state and each region of the state gets a certain amount of funding that has to be looked at competitively for each project. It's sometimes called an MPO, a Metropolitan Planning Organization. We're part of what's called NIMTEC, which includes Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester, and so they have all those competing
And the
interests.
city of New York.
And the city of New York. All those competing interests on that piece of the larger federal pie. So it's not just we have money and just a blank check. They're all competing interests. And I do agree with your statement, Chief, about that driveway, which is, I believe, what started this conversation. Because with this roundabout, you would be able to be restricting movements at that driveway. Without this roundabout restricting movements at the driveway would make it hard for people who wanted to get in and out. They wouldn't have, I forget exactly
Yeah,
the
there's
details
another
of it.
driveway on 44.
Right.
They can get in and out,
Right.
or at least get in. Yeah, they can get out. too.
And as an example, we were looking at this yesterday, looking at the tip. I think many of us know that the railroad bridge or the overpass on Montauk Highway east of Hampton Bays, just before you get to the canal, there's a railroad bridge there, which the county is working on replacing. That is, I guess, fully funded. We have no funding responsibility because it's on Montauk Highway, and it's a $40 million project.
Yes, that is a project.
The number, I must say, my eyes popped when I saw that number.
Yeah, I think it might be 38 million.
30, okay. There's
Well,
If it makes you feel a little better, right?
Even the railroad bridge over Sag Road, which, is 15, 20 million.
Right, these bridge jobs are very expensive.
Cranberry Hole
right?
Bridge, 15, 20 million. River Road, right, also.
Right. But, because this is a county road and a state road, I don't think the town would have any.
I would agree.
Responsibility,
I don't see the town at the table on this one at all.
just as a stakeholder.
Of course. And to your point
They,
about the
they,
left
they
out,
do want to see an indication that the town supports the project.
Which is what we're currently working on right now.
Right. So these were some ideas. I think I might have one more slide up there, but oh yes, thank you. Those were the infrastructure ideas. Kind of wanted to dust off and bring forward. Some of them are currently being pursued, which is good.
Well, I'd just be careful with that. We're looking at them. We're examining
Okay.
those concepts, and
Right.
we are evaluating what we would need to do next in terms of gaining the community support and also making sure we are able to get the state funding necessary.
Yes, yes. Community input.
That visual up there that was up there before, I mean, it looks like a roundabout, but it could be a bullseye too if you're not careful.
And I should point out, as the councilman did, public input is a very important part of any of this process.
They will be. They will be.
The renderings of the
Yep,
roundabout,
everything will be placed online.
these maps, all these maps,
They will all be put online.
'cause we can't do it.
I know we're not. There's no public portion right now, so we will.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Tom, did you want me to run through this part?
Yeah, if you would.
Okay. So we are now on our last agenda item for the day, which is an outline of the final report. So we do have first and foremost. So what you see in front of you is a breakdown, and this is in draft form, as you can see, draft in the background. This is in draft form, so there may be some slight changes to this. In fact, we had some conversations with the chief and the town engineer, and that has actually led to some additional considerations for the outline of this report. But first and foremost, it will lead off with an introduction talking about what inspired this particular task force to engage in this kind of work. It will go through an executive summary, talking mostly about methodology, what is contained in the final report. It'll include in section 3, county and town summaries of traffic data. Do you want to speak to that a little bit, Tom?
Well, I think, we presented early in this process, the first couple of meetings, we presented a lot of data about traffic volumes, seasonality of traffic, traffic on work days and 7 days a week, hours of the day. A lot of that data would be included in this, and since the county's taking, and has some new data for County Road 39, maybe we'll try to include some of the data that the county's collected.
Okay, thank you for that. In section 5, we will have the roads of concern that are featured there on the wall. It'll be accessible for your ability to visualize it. It will look at crash data. It'll look at the constituent issues. So as you see, those roads of concerns that are identified are actually triggered by the constituent concerns that were brought to the task force. So, Tom mentioned separating the map into various quadrants. We will be doing that. And, what each section, each road will be identified as well. And there will be a little bit of a blurb under each road discussing what the concern was and what, if any, solution was pursued or what potential solutions will be pursued or considered. Because obviously some of these various solutions require extensive evaluation. So that is to also be considered as people are reading the final report. There will be a section, as indicated in section 6, on County Road 39, since County Road 39 is one of the critical corridors here that has obviously proven to have led to a number of other traffic issues throughout the town. So in this section, we'll discuss the current state of County Road 39 and talk about the county efforts in the past and present, some of what has been done recently and what we've talked about throughout these meetings. We will course through some of the land use and zoning considerations offered to us by the planning director, as well as think about interim solutions, interim considerations that can be hopefully applied by the town in partnership with the county, if any. And obviously we'll rely on the county to help us with that. And then 7 is going to be a section about technologies and enforcement. So we'll be talking about how we worked closely with the police department with the addition of officers, looking at the functionality and viability of speed cameras, ongoing efforts with respect to the blinking lights. We'll look also at other concepts like radar, laser, data collectors, all the things that are deployed currently and what we plan to deploy in the future going forward. And then any other recommendations that we've identified throughout the course of the task force will be included in the subsequent section. And then, in section 9, we'll have a summary of what was discussed in the final report and an appendix as well. And we hope that this could function as a blueprint for the future town board, whatever is composed of the board, whoever is composed of the board will be able to, refer to this document. The public will be able to refer to this document as a blueprint for the town to help address some of the traffic concerns. So this is actually sort of novel in the sense of how we're actually laying this out. And Tom, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that the town has really evaluated it in a sense where we're sort of quantifying the constituent matters and sort of evaluating it in that way, section by section. I think that that's something novel to this. Obviously, the solutions we hope will be evaluated, and the information and suggestions on how those solutions can be evaluated will be indicated and discussed in the final report. But the final report we hope to have delivered the latest to the town board by March of this year. There will probably be a work session, I imagine, where Tom and Charlie or whoever from the task force wants to come and sit in front of the town board and just course over the final report, just like we did here, but it'll actually be finalized and complete, and the public will be able to view it as well. And from there, that will be submitted for publication and will be available on the town website as well. We didn't have public portion on the agenda for today, but I understand that there are a couple people here that may want to say a few words, and that's fine. But before that happens, I just want to say a few things. First and foremost, I want to thank the chairs of this task force, Tom Neely and Charlie McCardle, for all their work in really helping this task force move ahead, identify the path forward here. It was mentioned earlier on the first meeting that we had that we're not going to solve everything. Those are the first words that actually came out of my mouth was we're not going to solve everything, but we are going to try our best to identify what the problems are and find ways, utilize resources that we have, find ways to add resources so that we can address some of the concerns that are coming to us. And so far, I think we are headed in that direction. And we've established, I think, a nice interdepartmental system here that we've really, I think, experienced that this yields productive value for residents, because we have, the chief, we have directors, we have, the assemblyman here. We were able to really put our minds together and really figure out solutions that could work. That being said, I want to thank Assemblyman Thiel for being a part of this task force. We really appreciate it, and your time and your commitment.
It was a pleasure to participate, and I won't be here in March.
I know.
Well, I'll be here in March, but I
Right.
won't be here in March. But it's been a pleasure to serve. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Fred. And I also want to thank County Executive Romaine and Commissioner Bartha for playing a role here in this task force and paying attention to what's going on in Southampton. Additionally, Legislator Welker for also spending time and serving on our task force. To have the county support behind the town's efforts is actually a really big deal. I've often heard sometimes the county is sort of isolated in itself, but that's not the fact here. The fact that DPW and our legislator came to every meeting to listen to the public and have more of a granular picture of what's going on in terms of the traffic issues in Southampton is a really big deal, and it's a testament to the leadership of obviously Charlie Bartha, as well as the testament to the leadership of County Executive Edward Romaine. It really is just great. It makes us feel a little bit more at peace. I think it also makes the residents feel a little bit more of a peace of mind that their county government is here helping to better advocate for them. Also, a big thanks to the village. I know the village, Mayor Menger, and yourself, Chief Hertow, has been in the audience every meeting. And we really appreciate your efforts. And I also want to thank Chief Kiernan for also being at every meeting and taking the issues seriously. It's because of the dedication of our men and women who put their lives on the line every day that helps to keep our community safe. In every single meeting, I can say before and after, the chief takes everything seriously. He's always working hard to make sure that we are dedicating the resources that we have, that they're in the right place. And if we need additional resources, we're always working to try to be supportive of your efforts. So thank you for that. And I want to lastly thank the people of Southampton Town, because I believe, and I know Supervisor Moore, you believe as well, that community makes the best partner in government. And each and every meeting, you have helped guide our discussion and topics. Some of you, you have come to speak at the podium. Some of you have emailed us. Some of you have spoken on Zoom. Some of you have met with me in my office. We've met with you in various places. You've really helped guide our discussions, and the sharing of your experiences has been extraordinarily helpful and insightful to us. And your comments in some fashion, as I expressed earlier, will be cataloged in Section 5 of our report. So understand that this exercise of public comments was critical to helping us gather knowledge and information. And actually, that wasn't lastly. I actually want to thank Paula Godfrey, my legislative aide, who has helped write up all of the minutes and keep track of all the constituent comments and all the presentations that have come by the task force. I thank you. We thank you for all your hard work with that. So thank you, everyone, so much for all your work. We have we have 10 minutes. If anybody wants to say a few words, you'll have 3 minutes to speak, and then we do have a hard exit today, and I want to make sure I'm respecting everybody's time. So does anybody want to go ahead?
My name is Carol McCarville. I live in Hampton Bays. I came forward to our councilperson to offer my input, if you'll have it, because I was a judge at DMV. I was a prosecutor in the city who prosecuted many vehicle cases, from violations up to criminal vehicular homicides, and I've defended many vehicle cases. So really quick, here's what I think. I only started reading your previous meeting minutes, so I'm not fully abreast of everything. But so far, my conclusion is that this task force is not anywhere near done exploring the safety issue. The focus on moving traffic, that's okay, but nothing is more important than driver safety for the driver as well as the pedestrian. So here's what I think. I think that the town in the Justice Court has the district attorney prosecute, so to speak, moving violations, traffic violations. That's a mistake. The town is basically, you could say, or it looks like, abdicated overseeing the moving violations, the bad driving within the town. A DA's office looks at moving violations as small potatoes. You need someone to prosecute moving violations who knows the town, what the town wants, who's keeping track of what the fines are, what are the most serious cases, where are they coming. It's a bad move to have the district attorney's office prosecuting that. The legal department said, well, we have the DA because it's state law. Well, the police enforce state law. The town justices are empowered to rule on state law. We should have town attorneys. You should have a special, maybe special person in the justice court doing violations. Second of all, I think you should have the vehicle and traffic law at these meetings. I'm surprised because some of the things that you are considering are illegal and are in violation of the New York State vehicle and traffic law. So I know that Mr. Thiel and our supervisor are lawyers, but the rest of you, learn to flip through the book. Look at what you're talking about. It will state the law and then give illustrations of cases of how this was used. You have to learn to use the vehicle and traffic law, and also you should have the state highway law when you have these meetings. Okay, the other thing is, in traffic, I'm just going to talk about safety. The most important issue in safety is intersections. Statistically, the most accidents occur at intersections, not on highways like people think when people are driving fast, at intersections.
3 minutes.
So in my view, your first order of business is to look at all the intersections. It's easy to do. Take the accident reports that the police department has. They're all on computer, organized by Lexus, the computer company. Make piles. This intersection, this intersection, this intersection, and see first where which intersections are causing accidents and fatalities.
Thank you, Carol. Those are your 3 minutes. We'll have some follow-up conversations with you. Okay, does anybody else want to speak here? No? Okay, Kevin, is there anybody on Zoom? All right, thank you. Well, that concludes our meeting for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Yeah.